We all want, we taping?
Oh, hang on. We are now.
We're going to call the meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your interest in our city. This is the November 16th planning meeting. Terry, can I ask that you do our invocation?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you once again for this day that you've given us. We thank you for this room of people that care about the future of our city, and we pray that any decisions made here tonight will be in the best interest of our citizens and our town. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Beth. All right. Did everybody get a chance to read through the minutes?
I think you need to do roll.
Oh, yes. Let's start roll, please. Madam Clerk, will you do the roll?
Mr. Haney.
Yes.
Ms. Hutto.
Yes.
Mr. Robichaud.
Here.
Mr. Stryker.
Here.
Chairman Rico.
Here, thank you. Okay, now the minutes. Everybody get a chance to read through the minutes from last month?
It looked right to me.
Very good. Can we get a motion then, please?
I would so motion that we accept.
That's second.
All right, Madam Clerk, can we get a
Mr. Haney.
vote, please?
Ma'am?
Mr. Haney. The minutes.
I seconded.
No, we're taking roll.
We're
I mean, we're
taking a vote.
taking, we're
Yes or
voting.
no? He first, I seconded, yes, yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Hutto.
Yes.
Mr. Robichaud.
Yes.
Mr. Stryker.
Yes.
Chairman Rico.
Yes, and thank you. I do like the new, this is sort of a revised way of doing the minutes. It sort of cuts right to the chase. I appreciate this. This looks really good. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, who's squeaking? Me?
I don't know. I
Can't
turned
find
it
it.
down.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, if anybody would like to come up to the podium and state your name and your address and bring before the planning committee anything that is not on the normal agenda, please feel free.
Hi, neighbor.
Hello. Rita.
For the record, I'm Bill Libby, 4717 Sunset Drive, Parker, Free State of Florida.
Yes, sir.
I'm up here today, and perhaps I should be at the city council, but you all own the problem, and we all own the problem, and I wanted to bring to your attention. I sent each of you a letter stating my recommendation to do away with the LDR that allows billboards to be put into the city.
Mr. Libby, remember we spoke about that. They're getting that at the next one. I didn't have time to put that into this
It's
agenda.
not on the agenda, I just wanted to make some comments.
I understand,
Okay, that's fine.
but I did not
Oh, they don't have
distribute
it?
those
We didn't receive your
because
letter.
I
Okay.
was going to add those next time as an agenda item for you to speak to. You can speak, I mean, you're welcome to speak, they just don't have that in front of them.
I was under the impression you would have had it by now, but let me just spend a few minutes of your time and I'll get off stage. The LDRs allow billboards in Parker. And I was able to check with our sister communities up and down the coast, including here in Bay County. And we're about the only ones that allows it. And I mean the only ones. Bay County allows it in 5 different zones. But everyone from Apalachicola to Freeport down the coast do not. I sent you a letter with all the reference information, and I'd like to have your support when you read it. I may not be here for the next meeting, and I just wanted to get my 2 cents in up front. Now, I think I've got my 3 minutes. I'm passing out a photo of a billboard that was brought to our attention by a citizen.
Mark, he was concerned about his 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's, we're not gonna.
Who'd have ever thought, doing all of our LDR revisions and refuse that this subject would ever come up for discussion. And as far as I know, it never has. Or if it has, perhaps you'll really look at it. That was this weekend when I was doing the research. Yesterday, I found out that we have another billboard within 50 foot of this billboard that was approved. Some of the information comes from the electrical contractor that's doing the work and provided the information. The billboard that you see there, I don't have the permit for. I wasn't able to get it in time. But where Opie's used to be, there's another billboard just like that going up.
And these are permitted, Mr. Libby?
These are permitted. The one that's not up yet is scheduled to be completed by December, and I've got a permit for it.
Yeah.
That was approved by the
And
city.
I know what the rules here are, that they have to be 10 feet by 36 feet. They're only allowed in Tyndall Parkway.
And
If,
1,500 feet apart,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
and this looks like about 50 foot. If you look on that photo,
Yeah.
you'll see an X mark. That's about where the next one's gonna be. Exactly the same thing. It's a $40,000 fine. So, I just, if you read the letter that I sent you
Yeah.
and all the information I provided, I'm willing to answer any questions you have.
So
in
we can
between.
clearly see that X is not gonna be 1,500 feet. We're looking
Correct.
at about a quarter mile distance there, difference. And those look like they're just a few hundred feet apart. So was this a legal non-conforming structure at one time?
So I spoke with Carol at EPCI today, and she stated that she worked on one permit and someone in her office by the name of Miranda worked on another. There was some communication confusion between them. She and Miranda were going to speak today, and she was going to reach back out to me as soon as possible. But
Okay.
I have not heard back from them yet.
Because
I'm calling them daily to try and get this clarified.
it
As far as
sounds
I
like we have a
understand, the
couple of
com-
different things going on here. One is, it sounds like you wanna make sure that Parker State remains beautiful, and this kind of a large sign isn't able to be in
Well, it
existence in the
shouldn't be
future.
anywhere.
Yeah, and the second piece is, there are rules, and the rules are already here, with the exception that if it's a legal non-conforming structure, and I don't remember if there were two signs that close to each other, right there along Highway Business 98 or not. But if they're not, then they're in violation of our LDRs that already exist. Because we painstakingly went through signs and where they could be allowed and the size of them. As a matter of fact, just so that you'll know, when you look at what they refer to as off-site signs or billboards, this was the smallest one that was available. So that's the one we selected, thinking that we would maintain, as much beauty here without the distraction of those large signs. 10.7 by 36 is the largest that can exist. But it looks like if we got another one going up in X, then that would be a violation of the rules that are there. That's a code violation.
That's where the Opie property line is not a straight, it's a diagonal.
Yeah.
And if you look down where the old sign was, they were written up by code, and they were taking the old sign down. CPI? I get that
EPCS,
confused.
yes.
They're only interested in building codes. They're not interested in LDRs. I looked at their permit, I got it right here. Nowhere on their permitting does it talk about LDRs, ordinances, or anything else. They're concerned about building codes. So the electrical folks are coded, the construction folks are coded, but they would not look at this. This would have to be certified by the city.
Why does this not have to go through the city?
Yeah, that's my question.
It did.
It
It
did.
did.
It did and was approved.
Both signs or just one?
I understand both sides. The other permit is out there.
I'm still awaiting clarity on that because after
Because
speaking
this-
with Carol today, Carol thought this was one sign, but she was working on one permit And Miranda was, if I'm understanding them correctly, Miranda was working on another, but they thought it was the same sign.
Okay.
So this is, until I speak with them and get further understanding, I can't give you more information
Let
than
me
that.
ask
Can we
Mr. Sloan
rescind
for some
permit?
legal advice. So if we've got a situation, Mr. Sloan, where that ends up being real, let's say, for example, that one was a legal sign. But then we've got another one who's gonna be inside the 1,500-foot perimeter, which is illegal at that point. But let's say ECPI has already granted a permit. What can the city do?
Well, I don't want to speculate on what ifs, but the city code should prevail. And if they came to the city and the city reviewed it and determined for whatever reason that somehow it complied with our land development regulations, then I need to know how that decision was made.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I just wanna bring it to your
I
attention.
appre- I
That's all.
appreciate that. I mean, we're all gonna
The
live here
citizens'
for
eyes
a
out
long
there helping
time,
out.
and it makes good sense
People
to.
see this.
Hey, we reviewed these things, and quite frankly, that whole corridor is only a couple of miles long. So
Yeah.
the reason we put the 1,500 feet in there is because we figured that would be a natural way
Yeah.
to limit these kinds of large
Yeah,
signs.
and it's
We
just
did
a-
give this thing a fair amount of consideration, but
Yeah.
then the rules have to be applied.
Yeah.
And we should at least find out what happened.
Oh, and that's bringing it to your attention, I think, as a side note before I sit down, that anything in the CRA as permitted should be reviewed by a second level supervisor or even you folks. I think then I would have caught this right away, and there's a misunderstanding. I mean, somebody doesn't go out of their way to them. You know, we got two different people
It's
doing
not
the
through
same thing.
malice that it happened, I'm sure.
But
just
these
a
folks have
human
already
affair.
got their contract and their leases, so I wanna bring it to your attention,
Yeah.
and,
Thank you, Mr. Libby, I appreciate that very much. We will look into it because, I mean, the rule's there, pretty clear.
I understand.
Yeah.
And
Thank
then
you
the
very
second
much for
piece
your
of it
attention.
is about the
Thank you for the,
billboards. Appreciate you, sir.
let me get up there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to come to the podium? Hey, Pat.
1344 Stratford. Not to beat a dead horse, I did not know Mr. Libby was gonna speak to this. I did some research as well, and I came in and spoke with Ms. Riga yesterday, I believe it
Mhm.
was.
You did?
I didn't see the picture, but I wanna show you what I have as far, and I only have a copy.
I'll give you this.
As far as the permit. Here's, in addition to the fact that there's two, the circle on the right, as you see this, is the billboard that exists, or the framing that exists, the framing that exists. The one on the left is the one that's approved, but not yet begun construction. When we first learned of the billboard, I contacted EPCI because I understood that they were the permitting office, because there's the state DOT that's involved since it's Highway 98 before a billboard can go up. So I contacted EPCI, they asked me, what's the address? I said, I really don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be on 5657, which is it runs parallel to Ivy basically, and as I think Mr. Libby said, there's this diagonal cut, you can see it on that diagram. And then there's 5661, which is Mr. Felton's property where the storage buildings were, where he wanted to put up pole barns. So when I called EPCI, I said, I don't know, it's either 57 or it's 61. She told me it's 5657. I then went and I asked for a copy of the permits and all the information which she gave me. I then went to the property, and clearly that was being constructed on 5661. It is almost on the property line for La Brisa. I'm sure it's meeting the setback requirements, but the distinguishment between where this double-sided 36 by 10.6 structure is and where the permit that we've been able to get a copy of, which is 5657, are less than 500 feet, 300 feet. I mean, you can
Yeah.
see
Certainly in
the
violation
old
of the.
building.
of the-
And again,
It's
even
about 100 feet apart.
even the picture shows buildings pre-Michael.
Yeah.
They didn't use an old building.
Which is kinda dumb anyway, if you
It
ask,
is.
I mean,
Why
just
would you
because
want
you've
them
got
so
two large signs that
They
are gonna
don't know that
partially
they don't
block
know that
each
they
other.
do.
Well, it's not the same
I wonder if
company,
it
we
was
found
just-
out. It's two
And
different
then-
companies.
Wow.
It's the same electrical contractor, and they're owned by two different people. So they're making money. They have a lease agreement.
Were
with the
you
billboard
able to
company.
call them back yesterday after we spoke?
EPCI?
Mhm.
No.
No.
No, I wasn't able to call.
Well,
them
I
back.
called
Have
them
you
first,
ever-
I called
Yeah.
them first thing this morning.
Yeah.
I will tell you, in the capacity of code, a couple of weeks ago, I drove out to look at La Brisa. The sign hadn't been erected yet. I saw it sitting there, and that's when I came back and called EPCI to ask about it. And at that time, I was told it was permitted based on being a non-conforming structure as it had been there before.
Here's what I bet if we
But
get
I don't
down to it,
think it
what I
is.
think might possibly happen, here's what possibly could have happened, and this is just, creative side. But anyway, it's very likely that the sign where the X is, and I'm only speculating, so, it's very likely that the sign where the X is would be a new sign, and that would be in conformance. Because if there were no other signs there at the time, maybe it was permitted first, that where the X is. And then, this one here, they did have a legal non-conforming sign that was up at that location, and they would have legally been able to rebuild that.
Of the same size?
But it wasn't
And
that size,
five
it
and a
just
half
said
years
felt like
later-
homes.
You remember
Yeah.
the
What's the
legal
cutoff?
non-conforming
It
rules
wasn't.
have got to say
This
you
is
cannot
nice.
increase the level of non-conformity, right?
Right, and if you make it bigger,
Right, then you've increased the level of
And I'm-
non-conformity.
And was it
not
LED before
conforming.
and double-sided?
No.
Well,
Because now it is.
to
And
be
then
honest
there's
with you,
something in here
the
about
rules do
illumination
say that you
that it
can
can't be
improve it, okay? It does say that you can improve it. Now, there are requirements for, the type of lights that are there. You can't have flashlights that might be distracting, people. They can be lighted, but they can't be like strobes going off, because you create traffic accidents under those
True,
circumstances.
and there's an intersection right there.
Yeah.
So, again, to Mr. Stryker, 5.5 years later, I mean, I don't know what the cutoff is. I read the LDRs some time ago. I haven't committed it to memory, and I should have gone back and read it again before this meeting. But 5.5 years later, they get to fix it again. Does that mean that if I have a mobile home and I haven't replaced it, but it was damaged in Michael?
Two different.
No, I don't think
two
it
different-
is.
No, it is, it is.
It's a non-conforming structure, is it
That-
not?
There's, with a non-conforming structure in the signage, there's no limit. There's a 6-month limit on mobile homes. There is a difference.
Okay, but why?
Well,
We
because
think mobile homes are ugly, but we don't think billboards are?
I don't wanna get into the why. It
Okay.
was the council members that agreed to that. The theory being that there was possibly resource issues. We do know that there's several people who are just now getting rebuilt, even though it's 5.5 years later, because they either had insurance issues or resource issues. So we thought we'd give a little bit more, lax on the signage. But, if you're buying a mobile home from some other location, you could probably pull it in.
Trailer did, sure.
Yeah, so that was
Well,
some of the
Thank
reasoning.
you for that. I appreciate that. They were permitted by the city. And again, I only have evidence of the 5657. On September 11th of 23, planning sent to EPCI approval
Yeah.
for the billboard to go up.
Yeah.
So did we not look to see that there was one just a few hundred feet away? And
It's
I agree
possible.
wholeheartedly
I
with
think
Mr.
that's where we
Libby.
all landed. I think we all said it's a mistake. We
Okay.
just have to look at why it happened.
Okay, and what the resolution is, because somebody's not gonna be happy, or we're gonna be stuck with 2 billboards. But I agree with Mr. Libby, this is a CRA to boot.
Right.
It's not just a billboard on the other part of Highway 98, if you will, down by Dollar General and whatever. This is
You're-
the CRA, and this is the
We're
CRA.
all too familiar with that,
So,
Pat, and,
Thank you for
and like I say,
listening.
it is a mistake and it needs to be looked into why it happened, at the very least, so it doesn't happen again.
Thank you.
But no, thank you, appreciate it.
Can you?
Anybody else?
Excuse my ignorance on this, but, it being a state-maintained road, is there any kind of legal clarification through the state that needs to be taken care of before they put billboards up like this?
I could tell you the LDRs are pretty specific. We tuned the LDRs. We didn't do a lot of changing in the signage, but we did do some changing in the legal non-conforming structures because we experienced Hurricane Michael and we saw some of the hardships that people had to deal with in terms of getting materials and being able to rebuild some of the things that they had come back. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's what's happening here is against the LDRs. So,
Pretty much just council
yeah.
decision, what,
yeah, just have to find out what happened and see
Well,
if we can prevent it
it
from
appears
happening in the
that
future.
this never rose to the council level.
It never came before us. Yeah. That's right.
Interesting.
And that is a structure, and it probably should have come before at least an approval from the council. So, yes, sir. How can we help today?
Good evening. I'm Anthony Morgan. I'm at 13045 Sawpit Road out of Jacksonville, Florida. And I'm here in regards to property number address 4542 US 98 Panama City. It's currently the Gulf Coast Tree Specialist lot, and we're talking to the owner of that, trying to buy the facility to run our business out of. We do generators, pumps, that sort of thing, pump and power rental and sales and service on that sort of stuff. So it's a commercial lot right now. We'd like to use it. The buildings that are existing work for what we need. We don't really need to add on to it, but just want to make sure we can do that on the lot before we finalize the deal.
So that's, you're talking right down here, right?
Can
Right?
you give me your last name again? I did.
Morgan?
Morgan, thank you.
Mr. Morgan, you're just
It's
talking
just
about,
a few blocks from here, yes, sir.
they're right next to the
Cemetery.
cemetery?
Randy Wright's
Exactly,
place
yes.
over here.
Yes.
So that's the,
I would caution again, a knee-jerk advisory opinion. It needs to be looked at by staff first.
I was gonna direct him to where he could find that
You,
information.
Well, I called
you
the
spoke
staff.
with us,
Yes.
and can you tell them what we said?
Well, a few people from our company spoke to you. When I talked to you, I think it was Carol I spoke to, and she said I needed to come. Put it Carrie or Carol or
Probably Carly.
Carly, and I thought she was going to be here. She said, but anyways, she said to come here and to present it to you, but you don't necessarily have industrial or light industrial zoning. That commercial, it would fit under your commercial. It would just have to have the approval. So I think
You're not
it's
making
not,
anything there, you're bringing a product there and then taking it out, right?
We do not manufacture anything there. We bring product there and we take out. That's correct. We bring, usually a site that we put in brings $500,000 to $1 million worth of revenue in income a year. Not revenue, I'm sorry, but payroll. So that'll be high-paying jobs it brings to the area. And we'll put a fleet of, anywhere from 5 to 10 million of our units there. So there'll be the tangible tax revenue to the city or the county, however we do that as well. So we do bring income to the county. And it fits under the code as best we read it. We just want to make sure there's nothing,
So you guys read through the general commercial area?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And that's CRA sub-area 1?
It is.
Yeah. There's 2 sections you really need to read just to make sure if it does fit, just before you guys spend any money. That would be section 4.5-4, that's your general commercial, and what's allowable. Now, we're probably going to be slightly altering that a little bit.
Right.
But there's another section here that's going to be in the LDRs. It's called your Community Redevelopment Design Overlay District, and yours would be under sub-area 1. Now, generally, what they are looking for in those areas are retail, restaurant, office, and residential. So it may be outside of what that is. However, I think if you could provide us with more information, maybe the next time, maybe provide us some pictures of what you're doing, we would be able to tell you whether or not it fits into that category. But I think we would require that you formally come before the Planning Commission and identify what it is you're going to be selling, and whether or not what kind of truck traffic you'd have going down that street, because all of that plays in.
For their access, Commissioner, I'm the agent for both parties on this.
Can you come up and
Yeah.
just let us know?
My name is Bob Douglas. I represent True Coastal Realty, and I represent both the seller and the buyer in this. And their impact, basically, their access is on Business 98, and they'll be utilizing the same thoroughfare as Gulf Coast Tree Specialist currently does. They're going to be relocating out there because of growth, and so it doesn't appear that there'll be other impact, city impact as far as traffic and such as that. May actually be a little less than Gulf Coast because they're running probably 40 vehicles in and out of there every day. So,
So
and
any retail out of that location?
That's not the intention, no, sir.
Okay.
And we do about 12 to 14 trips a day, something in that vicinity, so it is less traffic than is currently.
And what were the products that you're gonna be selling?
It'll be generators and pumps, like dewatering pumps.
We're talking about large pumps? or-
Semi-truck?
it's a leasing company,
Not,
is what it
not
is.
primarily smaller trucks, like a 350 or a 550 will pull it. It's on a trailer, so that kind of.
Trailer equipment, yeah. It's very similar to what Gulf Coast has now with their Asplin chippers and, you know, of course, they have excavators and actually bigger equipment, okay?
Yeah, our trucks are smaller than theirs.
Yeah. Now, as a point of, in reference to your previous statement about their land use, I think the commission has just, or is in the process of approving the adjacent property for a medical fabrication plant, which is the old church property.
It's not been approved, sir.
Okay, but I think that that's
And-
also
and
on the.
Just understand that because the use is gonna change from what it is right now, the use right now, it's considered a major development because of because we're going from what it is today to more of like a retail of pumps and valves and things of that nature.
But it's not really retail. We're not customer facing, so customers aren't walking into the shop and buying stuff. We take it with the truck, haul it to a job site for a contractor, so we're delivering it on the site if they need a pump to.
It's more of a
mount it.
storage facility really
It's really
than, and we just, they've acquired another piece of property over in Campbell City. That city looked at it, based on the equipment they used, and they determined that it was more of a storage type facility than it was, because there's no retail action going on. They work with contracts with contractors, et cetera. It's not where the contractors are pulling in. Typically, they take their own equipment, deliver it to the site, pick it up, return it to the storage facility.
Like a warehouse, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's why it's as similar to Gulf Coast. They don't cut trees on their property, but they store their equipment there that they do that work.
Mr. Chair, I think we need a little more.
Table it, yeah. I think what
Information.
we'd like to do is we're gonna go ahead and table this, and if you could provide more information, because like I say, the sticking point here is that is right in the CRE area. And quite frankly, the tree service, if that was gonna move in there today and they hadn't been a business before, it wouldn't, that service that's there wouldn't be allowed under the current CRAs, or under the current LDRs. So it's probably not a good thing but anyway, but the CRA area there is outlined in terms of what they're looking for in that particular area. And I'm not saying that we couldn't do it. What I am saying is we need more information in terms of the operation. There are rules within the LDRs which would prevent large trucks from coming up and unloading and loading off of that side street right there. You would have to come in because you've got a use change and because the LDRs are clear. They were grandfathered in, but that grandfathering doesn't transfer to you under a different use and a different business. So you would have to change traffic if it was granted to come in all off of 98. But I do think we would like more information in terms of the type of business that would it be, what kind of buildings you would be erecting, if
We
any.
wouldn't be changing the building.
Yeah, and if you don't mind putting that in writing, getting it to our city clerk so that we can have a formal review of it before, because this is the first I think any of us are hearing about it.
We
Again,
would
I'm-
need to have you fill out an application, and that would stipulate all the information that they would need.
Is that available online?
I don't believe it is, but you're welcome to write your email down and I can get that to you.
Yeah.
If you'd
And
like to do
again,
it that way.
I don't want you to walk away from here feeling like the answer is no. It's neither no nor yes, we just don't know enough
Yes,
about it.
please.
And we don't wanna make a quick
Thank you.
decision that would harm you and that you'd spend any money and then for some reason the council members would reject it because of something in the CRA we're not anticipating.
Right.
But there are traffic concerns, there are the type of business that it is because it's in a CRA sub-area 1. Those are two things that they'd have to look at. Okay?
Okay, so the concern
And
is coming.
there's one other thing that, and that is that we are, getting ready to, at least consider, inputting additional information into the, land development rules, which, impact, light manufacturing.
Right.
Which, doesn't sound like it's gonna impact you guys at all, but, I think we need more information, formal information that we could peruse and then hear it at another time.
When would be the next ability to bring that before?
December, December 9th, is it?
Oh, okay.
Is
That's fine.
that the date, our next meeting?
I have to say I did not bring my clerk.
Whatever the,
book, I'm
whatever the
sorry.
second, Tuesday of December is, I
That
think
works.
it's the 9th,
Thank you, Commissioner.
yeah.
All right.
And,
Thank you, gentlemen, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
We appreciate
bringing
it.
it before us. Jim, did you wanna say something?
and we need a development plan. We need something, no kidding in writing, signed, sealed, and stamped. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't just
Yeah.
give you recommendations based on.
I'll send the
conversation.
application and it will list everything that you need to provide.
And that would include things like, even though I know immediately you don't have a plan for, any additional structures that are there,
You see the date?
but,
Is it
like I
the
say, in
December
order,
12th.
because it is a use change, that does fall under, a large category of, and so there are differences in the way that goes about the approval process. It does come before the planning commission first, then it goes to the council members, and then if there are any, exceptions or variations that have to apply, even though you may have something that doesn't necessarily agree to the LDRs, you could actually ask for a variation to the rules. So, anyway,
All right, thank you.
thank you,
your
we
time.
appreciate you. Anybody else like to come before the?
Joe Ed wanted to speak.
Joe, Ed, did you wanna, Kim saying you had a few things you wanted to tell us?
Everyone don't know who I am, but I'm Joe Ed Hutchison. I was here, this city presented me, and I know you, Mr. Sloan, you was my friend's friend. Do you know he passed on?
I knew he did.
I thank you for understanding that. But I come here for a little problem. I need some help from the city. And I believe the city can help me. And the reason I come here is the people in boats, and they live up in the head of these bayous and places, not all of them, but most of them don't know how to throttle their motor down. It's wide open when they leave the dock. And I've put up a riprap on my property, 300 foot, for about 25 years or 30, and I'm getting tired of paying the bill. And what I need is some signs with slow speed limit, so maybe they can understand that or read it. That's what I'd like for the city to do, is help me out in that respect.
I'm gonna ask,
Do you think that's asking too much for citizens?
well, I'm gonna ask for Mr. Robicheff's brain here, because he, was very involved in, the removal of much of the derelict vessels, that existed out there, and also, he was very involved in a section of the LDR where we were talking about renting pontoon boats and other things, and the rules and regulations surrounding those for wakes and speeds and things of that nature, so.
But now let me tell you this, if you go back and look on your Coast Guard records, the man that's running the boat is liable for his wake. But I was just trying to get the city to help me out and let them know that we got a speed limit here. Is that asking too much?
Well, it seems reasonable.
It seems like it's not, but the sad truth, Joe Ed, is that no wake zones can't be just established with signage.
But I could carry it in court, see? But I
If
gotta
there's
have all
property
kind of
damage,
proof.
you're absolutely right, you are responsible for your wake, and you may, if you can identify the boater, and you can take him, take him to court.
I was responsible for my wake when I was commercial fishing.
I understand that, but the rules, Coast Guard rules and state of Florida rules on no wake zones are very, very, very specific, and they're very difficult to establish. There are only like 4 or 5 of them in the entire state.
Well, they've got them down south here.
There's one at the Destin Bridge, at the Brooks Bridge in Fort Walton Beach.
Yeah.
There's a couple down in the Keys. There's one in the Hillsborough River near Tampa. And there might be one or two on the Space Coast, but that's it. And if a municipality, well, let's take Fort Walton, for instance, they established a no-wake zone just south of the Brooks Bridge, west of the Brooks Bridge. They have to they had to get approval from 4 different federal agencies. Then they had to pay to put up the buoys, and it's got to be Coast Guard approved buoys, not signage. And they have to maintain them after they've gotten the approval to do it, is what I'm saying. So it's not, it sounds like it's easy to do, but you can put up a sign.
I didn't think it'd be an easy thing to do, but people need to realize some of your commissioners live above me, and they don't care how fast you run and tear up all my property. What am I need to do? Get me a rifle out there and shoot them?
No, I was thinking more, we'll put a big billboard out there. Can we
That's
put a
my
billboard
first
in your
suggestion
backyard
right
with a big
there.
sign that says
We
no,
may have
no
one
wake?
to relocate.
Well,
Yeah,
that's one
we
way
need to
start.
relocate one.
Nothing against that, even if it's not
I
law.
hate to say that, we're
Maritime
all
law.
human beings, and we try to get along together in our lives.
You know what, let's do this, let's put it on our agenda to see, cause what you're really asking for is just whether or not the city
I believe
could
the
put a
city-
couple
I
of
would-
signs
Signs
out
out
there
there and
that
maybe-
say no wake or low speed or something like that.
No wake.
I mean, Mr. Sloan would have to be the one that would let us know
The
if
problem
that's.
that you have, Mr. Chair, is the enforcement,
Right.
and who's gonna enforce it?
Marine
Well,
Patrol should, and
yeah.
I was thinking in my mind, if you could put some game cams up or something like that, where you can identify the boats that are going through there to super fast speed, to just call the Marine Patrol
Well,
up and report them to them.
When you get involved with Coast Guard, you get entangled with a lot of things. I've been involved with them a lot. I fished, and they always boarded my boat because I was Coast Guard approved. And that's the bad part about it. You can't win, playing with the law, you can't win at all. But I thought maybe we might do something, like you say, put up some signs, posts with signs on them, a couple of places.
I've got it.
There's nothing, you can put up any sign you want on your property as long as it complies with the sign rules.
You
Yeah.
can't put it in the water though, can
You
you?
can't, no, it'd have to be on your property, it'd have to be above mean high tide, and you could put a nice sign saying, please control your wake. With big enough letters that they can see it. Now, as Mr. Sloan pointed out, there's no way the city could enforce that. Nor could the Florida Water, the FWC, nor could the Coast Guard, because it's not an official no wake zone.
Mr. Robichaud, are there
Yes.
extra things to, because we have manatees actually
They
out
have,
here
they have,
occasionally. Is there, I mean, now we've got a protected creature.
It has to, you can't just say you have them,
in
it has to be
Steen
established
Hatchie,
by
they have
FWC.
signs up there and people obey them. In Steen Hatchie, that's not far down
And
here.
that's a designated, wildlife protected, thing
Well,
that,
that's because that river's there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Crystal River.
I know a little about this state.
I bet you do, sir, I bet you do.
But the thing about it is I was just trying to see if I could get some help, maybe. Big grace alive, it costs me a bunch of money to put riprap down every time it gets low.
Joed,
You tried to get it out of your income.
oh, listen, I get it. Well, our city clerk is going to bounce it off the mayor, see if there might be something that we can do to kind of help out with the signage. I think Jim has given us the parameters for what has to occur. It has to be on your property, and
It's all right, I'm not using that property, but it does, it's a barrier, what it is. And those people that lives above me, I don't know what they gonna do when they run out of land there. It's gonna wash in on their houses, and then what they're gonna do and what is the city gonna do to help them,
yeah,
or the county or the state.
yes, sir.
We got a problem. You think I'm the problem, but I'm not the problem. I
No,
wanna
listen.
fix that
I think it's
problem.
legitimate, yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's all I wanna do is fix it. The people don't wanna help you at all. They won't, even you commissioners that lives above me, they don't wanna slow that boat down.
Well, we'll see if the city can do anything in terms of helping out with some signage on your property there. I'm
I
gonna
believe
task the
on
clerk
each,
to
get
do
some
that.
signs on each side of the bayou would be fine.
Yeah,
Out there in the mouth, maybe the Coast Guard will let you put a sign on there
very good.
somewhere. That'd be helpful.
Yes, sir.
I don't mean to be undercutting anyone, but I hope everyone has a very nice Thanksgiving.
You too, Joe.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Joe.
And I
Very
thank
kind
you
of
for
you.
your attendance to my Purple Heart. It's been a while back,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm still here. 92, December 31st.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Joe.
All right. y'all
Thank you,
have a
sir.
good
Appreciate your time.
Thanks, sir.
And hello, Martha.
Anybody else like to bring anything before the group here? Very good. Okay, I think our first, we've got it's a lot split at 5133 Lake Drive. Is it Mr. Brown? Yes, sir. If you can come up. Oh, yeah. He sure is. He's a bona fide war hero for sure.
I'm not quite 92, but I'm getting there quick, it seems like. And I'm gonna keep this short and simple. Mark, I did submit a survey that Carly
Yes, sir.
had requested.
Yes, sir. I did see
And
that.
if you'll notice on the survey, the lot in question is the little L shape coming off. I think it was highlighted on the survey.
The parcel C, right?
Yes, sir, parcel
Okay.
C, and the reason I ended up with the parcel C with the oddball shaped lot that I have, as a matter of fact, my name is Gary Brown, I live at 5133 Lake Drive. My wife Louise, she's a lifetime resident of Parker, I've been here since '71 when I got stationed at Tyndall. And, we built a house there in 1985, but the reason we ended up with that odd shaped piece of property, we owned a couple acres in behind that years ago back in the 80s, and, when they started developing Marla Drive, they came to me and made me an offer for the property back there, and back then we needed to eat, so I said, sounds good to me. So that's why I ended up with that piece of property, and back then I signed a piece of paper and he handed me a check, and that's all that was done. I didn't realize the formality of this, so.
Gary, can I ask a quick question which may save us all a lot of time? Is
Yes.
that actually seen by the tax assessor as a separate parcel today, or is it connected to you?
It's connected to me. At one time, it was a separate piece. Because
Okay.
of tax purposes years ago, I had it combined. I
So-
went down to the county.
So that's why the surveyor identified it as parcel C though, but still connected. Okay, so at one time, you combined it to your property, because it
Yes, sir.
wasn't, okay.
Well,
I
it
got
was, we had almost 2 acres in behind that with a right of way. It's coming off of 11th Street. We eventually bought the piece on Lake Drive from the same man, Mr. Spicer, that lived there in Lake Drive for
Yes, sir.
90 years, and that brought the two pieces of property together. When when they developed the property in behind me, he came to me, like I said, offered me some money, and boom, 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 it was done.
I see.
And I've sold 2 pieces of property. I've signed a piece of paper and they've handed me a check. You know, it's never been. I didn't realize it was so formal. And but when I came down to talk with, I actually went to the county appraiser first. They told me I need to come to Parker, get approval to split that piece of property.
Yep.
And the person that's interested in that was supposed to have been here. I wish they would have been here. It's a neighbor that lives adjoining that piece of property. He's been calling me wanting to check on the property. I told him about the meeting, and
And all we do, Gary, is we actually just determine whether or not anything you're requesting violates any of the LDRs. And what I've seen here is that I don't see any violations of the LDRs. Sometimes when you make a parcel of land smaller, what it does is it then changes the impervious nature of the buildings you've got.
Yes,
But
sir.
it looks like you're selling off about a 1/4 acre parcel of
Yes,
land
that's
there.
right at it.
Looks like it's about 0.26 acres.
That's
A little
correct.
over 11,000 square feet. And then you own parcel D, right?
Yes, sir.
And parcel D is part of your property.
Yes, sir.
And then parcel A is all part of your property.
Yes, sir.
And I've got you configured at about 21% impervious, so that's well even with the sale of the parcel C. So I don't really see any violation here for any LDR just by selling off that parcel. Mr. Sloan, is there something I'm missing?
Access?
The man is buying the property, it backs up to his property, and he lives at 615 Nicole, around the block from me. it will join his property, and he has road access through it, to that way.
So there's
through that
no,
way.
no way he could develop that property.
Well, he told me that this is him and his wife came to our house and talked for a couple hours, that they were good, she wanted the property to clear a little bit, put a garden back there. And the main reason I'm getting very little for the property, I've had somebody else approach me, I don't want it to be developed, there's an empty lot next to me, a very large lot, and I know a developer could come in there and put a cul-de-sac in, I don't know what the city regulations are.
Yeah.
And if they had and if he come in, and I'm sure I could get a whole lot more for this property, but I don't want any, really, I don't
And
want
even,
any more houses
even,
around it than
even
I gotta
so,
pay.
I mean, anybody that would wanna develop something would have to come before the city and say, hey, I wanna build a
Sure.
property there, and then we would say, well, you don't have road access, you don't have water access,
Just
you
sound
don't
like
have
somebody just
sewage.
wants a big backyard.
So,
now, let's
at
put
this
that
point, if
into
it's
it.
just gonna be in addition to another person's backyard, and his sale isn't gonna change anything, anything that he does
Yes.
from an LDR violation standpoint, right?
I have
So-
no
The
opposition
person
to-
that lives at the end of Nicole that wants this actually owns a parcel, and a parcel, and then they would be purchasing this parcel. So then they would actually have all of that tied together. I mean, that's all them that
Sounds
owns it.
reasonable.
At a
So-
quarter acre to their
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
size,
yeah.
And the reason all this come about, excuse me, Mark, I
Sure,
bet
no, it's okay.
they had a tree hanging over, that was on our property, that was endangering their shed.
Yeah.
And there's been 3 times, that piece of property there has been wooded ever since we've had it. We have no use for it. And 3 times I've had to pay to have trees cut down or removed, or one time even had to have a big beehive taken out because the
Yeah.
lady didn't like, it bordered her house, and it's cost me more money than really it's been worth over the past, 40-something years.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make a statement here. I don't see where it's gonna, negatively impact anybody, if we said yes to this. So, I guess I'll ask for a motion on the floor to allow this
I'll
split
make
to
a
take
motion
Well,
occur.
to
yeah,
allow
to recommend it.
Recommend it to the council,
I'll
yes.
second the recommendation.
Very good. Madam Clerk, can we take a vote, please?
Mr. Haney?
Yes.
Ms. Hutto?
Yes.
Mr. Robichaud?
Yes.
Mr. Stryker?
Yes.
Chairman Riga?
Yes, thank you, sir. Appreciate you bringing it to us. And, the next process is just take this before the council members. You feel free to tell them that you received a unanimous yes from the planning commission, and, they'll get the same information we have, and, I think we're off to the races.
So now I gotta go through the Parker Council to.
Well,
This is.
here's the
One
good
more
news.
word.
We
What
tend to be a
happens
little
to the
bit
day
more
the guy just handed
detailed
me a
than them.
One more
That's
one more
gone.
hoop.
That's
It's
gone.
easy. I think it's next week too, so you can.
Mr. Brown,
I'll be honest, it's actually become more.
Mr. Brown, I'll call you tomorrow.
Thank
and I'll
you,
let
ma'am.
know.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you,
Appreciate
sir.
y'all very
Appreciate
much, and
you,
thank
sir.
you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you, same to y'all, appreciate it.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, the next one we've got on the menu is, it's Tallahassee Estates LLC, MU2 to commercial request. Is it Mr. Bostwick here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Barry Bostwick, 6300 East Highway 98 in Parker. I currently have a license to sell, I was selling motorcycles and golf carts and stuff there, but I've been selling portable buildings since the hurricane.
Yes,
And
sir.
it's not really a good location for that. I need more room, but everybody's gotten in that business, so it's kind of slowed down. But I've had a rental car franchise in Tallahassee, so I have some experience renting cars, and I was just trying to get the approval because Mixed Use 2 doesn't allow car sales or rentals.
Yes, sir.
The building was built in '63. It was originally commercial. Mr. Forehands, who I purchased it from, he was on the city council back in like '04. And the property beside me, the bank loaned the company $20 million to build some big development. Well, that's when the economy crashed.
Tank, yeah.
So the land's been sitting for 20 years. It's recently been purchased, and I think we all know that they're gonna build a new bridge there. The right-of-way acquisition should be complete, next month, and bids go out in '24 of the spring, and construction starts probably late '24. But I'm just asking that, so I can open that business. The sign I have now, I didn't have any insurance. The building, I need a new sign, so I would be spending like $500,000 for automobiles to, rent and sell, but, it was commercial. It was changed to mixed use too. I think Mr. Forehand thought he was gonna sell the land to them or develop with them and make more money, cause you can, I was told I could build a 12-story building on that land, cause it's mixed use too, but I'm just asking that it be changed back to what it was originally, so I can, you know, it's the first building you see when you come over the bridge into Parker, and it would look better, you know. I joined commercial. The whole area was built commercial.
Well, when did that change happen? Do you remember?
I
when
think
it went from,
04.
Mr. Sloan, do you remember that? That's
I don't specifically remember
Yeah.
the change,
Yeah,
but it is currently mixed use.
yes.
I guess my question for staff is, this looks like a relatively new application. Has it been referred to the engineer, and do you have comments back from the engineer?
No, sir, we had not sent it to the engineer.
Okay.
Also, just for point of clarification, Mr. Bostwick, your current business license is for merchandise. It's a mercantile business license, it's not for automobiles, just so you know that.
Well, he's not selling cars out of it now, so it wouldn't be that,
Well,
right?
I just wanted
Right,
to
I'm
let
just
him know
saying.
that would be a change
This,
as well.
this,
Oh, change
this
of use,
actually
yeah.
came to the
Yeah.
council years ago,
Yeah.
and under the advice of the previous planning committee, chairman, recommended not to approve it for car sales because it would be a detrimental to the adjoining property, and also would be an eyesore to property coming from Tyndall Air Force Base. So, and at the time you tried to approve it to the council, you had various cars in derelict conditions on your property. So we rejected it. You don't remember this? That's when you followed me outside and you had a very bad conversation with me. You threatened me, called me a liar. Do you remember this
Yeah,
situation?
You
You
did
remember
lie
that?
to me, yeah.
I lied to you?
Yes, sir.
I think you're a liar yourself. then.
No,
I don't
okay.
know why we're discussing this. I'm just
Because,
asking.
because
This is
you're
just
trying to do
start
the
of an
same thing you
application. It
did
just
Okay.
needs
years
to go
ago.
through the normal process.
Okay, very good. So why don't we do this? Why don't we just go ahead and,
Like you're working in a residential
so-
neighborhood.
Mr. Bostwick,
what
is
Mr.
the
Chairman,
difference?
the chairman is speaking.
what are we, so we need him to file an application?
No, he
to
has
do this?
apparently filed this application,
Mhm.
and if he's paid his fee,
Mhm.
then once he pays the fee, then this goes through the regular normal process.
Okay,
And then once the staff completes the process and the engineer completes the process, as is typical of every application for a land use change,
yeah,
then it would come back before y'all for consideration.
okay.
But I'm not sure, I think we're getting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
None of that seems to have happened yet.
No, I get that. I get
And
that.
so I think you need to put it through the normal process, and then when it comes back before y'all, you'll have all those recommendations, and then you all
Okay.
can decide what to do with it at that time. And of course, if you all choose to do the conversion, it will require an ordinance,
Yes,
because it'll be a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment that will require an ordinance. We'll have to have 2 readings at the council level, 2 public hearings, and then some publication notice. So there's a whole process that has to be done. You can't just show up and.
no, I got you, I got you.
I didn't
Did
just
you
show
get
up.
all of
I put
that?
in my application and I asked her if I
Yeah.
could pay the fee.
Yes,
I mean,
you
I need to
did.
get the
So
ball
we
rolling.
will,
Yeah.
Mr. Bostwick, you can come tomorrow and we can move forward with that.
I'm not clear, is this in a CRA or not? Do we know?
No, it's
Mr.
not.
Bostwick, can you, it's not or it is, Joe?
It's not.
It's not, okay. So it's
There's a
the
carve out.
last
There's a-
lot
there's a-
prior to the
there's a carve
CRA?
out.
Wait a
Be-
minute.
Because
Doesn't it
I
butt
need
up
to
to
clear,
property
Wait,
I need to
wait,
clarify that, because that changes the rules a little
I'm
bit,
not
Mr.
exactly
Bostwick.
sure where he is,
I
but I
think
think he's
maybe
right down
one
in
of
here
the-
somewhere.
Yes, sir, I think he's,
And
When
this
he,
is
when he
CRA.
does the application,
is.
I'll look the address up and I'll have that
Okay.
information.
Okay, let's,
which shows this carve out.
That map is in there. That's not the
Yeah.
Okay.
correct map. This is
so
the original map
our
of the
attorney has
CRA.
identified, and this is,
All
Mr.
along
Bostwick, this
for
is
you to see
important.
it.
Because if it's a CRA area, and I believe he's right, because he actually wrote the boundaries for the CRA, that's gonna be in a CRA area number 2. So it's more than just MU1 and commercial. It's also about the vision that the council members had for that particular parcel, for those parcels of land. And we kinda gotta go back to that because that's pretty important. And there's a few things there that I think bear some noting. The first thing is that sub-area 2, their vision was that that was gonna be high-rise mixed-use buildings with retail. High-rise mixed-use building with retail. So if you're in the CRA, they intended for that to be mixed use, okay? Retail, restaurant, personal services, offices, and residential uses. So I'm trying to save you some money, particularly $1,100. We're an advisory committee here. We're not the final decision maker. The council members are, but they're gonna read the same thing I am. And if that's sub-area 2, it's more than just going from MU2 to commercial, back to commercial. Normally, under normal areas, you could then have an auto dealership there if it was on the other side. When we go to sub-area 3, sub-area 3 is between Cherry Street and Boat Race Road. That's the one where the council members had a vision for auto-related services, okay? And that is why, so I just don't want you to waste any money given the city clerk on something that may not approve, because more readily, it's the Community Redevelopment Act. And when Mr. Sloan put that all together back in 2006 and 2008, we had to commit to the state and the county that they were gonna be under a strict regiment of rules. And we agreed to these rules with the state and the county. So it's an enormous process for us to go back to them and say, we're changing the rules of the CRA. And in fact, we could lose funding for that if we did that. So I'm speaking out of turn here, but I'm gonna tell you, if we have to go through that in order so that you could have an auto lot on that parcel of land, my vote would probably not be likable by you. So ultimately, but it's only because of the rules, and that's why I'm giving you that.
Well, I have a license now, but they granted me a license to sell RVs there.
That's not the business license that you have, sir.
No, I didn't say that. I had one there before. I let it expire because, this rule said I couldn't
And
sell
a
one.
lot has changed since then. It sounds
Well, a
like
lot's
that.
changed because now you had this big development that was coming, just like we said, Parker's been hoping stuff's gonna happen for 50 years. So now, Mr. Miller's who he was speaking of, that at the meeting, it was 2-2.
All I'm doing is I'm telling you, if you're in
I
a CRA,
understand.
sub-area 2.
I'm just coming here as a formality, cause
It's-
I know the process.
It's, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So,
I know the process. I've already paid my 1,100 once. So it's,
Okay.
you know, but.
well, all I'm telling you is read that
That
section
was
473.
with the prior staff,
Come
though.
on, guys. Sub-area 3 here, sub-area 2, just read that because this sub-area.
I've read it, yes, sir, believe me.
Okay.
I probably know more about it than y'all do.
You're probably right. You
I've owned it for
sound like a
7
smart
years,
guy.
and
So
I've
at the end of the day, sub-area 3 is really where they want the auto-related services. That's the vision.
But do you
Okay, so-
understand that I can walk out my property and the guy right beside me can sell a car?
No.
Yes,
He-
sir.
No, he's in a,
No.
no, sir. He's in a commercial area. He's commercial area, which allows for auto sales, but not in a CRA. Reread the rules. Go back to that page.
He's commercial and he can't sell cars.
He cannot sell
Correct.
it, not in a CRA sub-area
Correct.
2.
He
You
wouldn't
have,
be given
that's
a
what I was trying to
license.
convey to you. You have 2 components.
Did that
You-
just change?
No, sir.
No.
This has been here for quite some time.
Well,
So-
there was a car lot there.
Well, maybe it has been there a long time, but at the end of the day, today, it can't happen.
Okay. All right,
All right, sir. Thank you for your time.
thank you.
All right. Okay, let's see, what do we got next? Next thing on the menu is what?
From Mr. Sloan.
Oh, Mr. Sloan. Okay, Mr. Sloan. Okay.
Can I ask the committee something before we just?
Yes, sir.
Can-
Please.
I got one question. What are we gonna do when we can't get out of Donaldson Point to get on the
Joe Ed, I honestly
We don't
don't.
have any traffic lights up here to get us out.
It's gonna
Oh,
go back
I
to
see, at the end of
DOT,
Sewell?
Unfortunately.
Can you tell me what we'll do?
Helicopters.
You got one?
We'll buy one.
And you can't buy one.
Joe Ed, I
Long
would
as you fly
imagine,
it.
but,
You can't buy one.
listen, we're,
Man, you can't afford
It's
it.
a state highway anyway.
yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
that's a
Good, good
DOT
call.
thing.
You're my man, you know that, don't you?
All right, guys, point of order, let's get back to business here.
I voted for you last time.
As we're gonna go on to chapter 2023-17 discussion, in front of you, there's a summary of the, of what went on with Florida law. Mr. Sloan was kind enough to send this 55 pages off to us, so in front of you should be a summary. At first, when I first started reading this, I wasn't sure why this would apply to the land development rules, but then it became obvious to me because there are things that matter. When you first started reading this, it really talks about deleting the authority of local governments to utilize laws and ordinances that would impose controls on rents. The reason they're doing that is because they're mandating counties to ultimately create affordable housing. Okay? They're also mandating counties counties and also local government municipalities to prepare an inventory list of properties that could be used for affordable housing. So this is probably going to change the lives of our clerk and some of the people who are inside as well. Some of the things that are going to be directly related to the LDR are changing parking requirements for proposed developments that fall under these authorities. Okay. Another thing that I think is pretty interesting is they're mandating approval methods for developments under the law. So for example, if you have an MU1 and an MU2 and you have a affordable housing that wants to go into an area there, they're wanting you to maximize the density rules for that particular building if they make for like your MU2, even though they're in an MU1, so that they can have as many of these affordable housing units as possible. This program did take effect June 1st of 2023. It's in effect for approximately a 10-year period of time. It goes until July 1st of 2033. Here's another piece where it's probably going to cause some heartburn for the council members. It's requiring local governments to allow what they call modern housing concepts, including manufactured homes, tiny homes, 3D printed homes, and accessory dwellings. Many of those are disallowed in our LDR, particularly in the residential areas. So we will have to make some changes. Now, the hammer that they're using is that they will withhold state funds to local governments unless we comply to Chapter 163, Section 2 of the Florida law, which provides the city with certain funds related to this law.
How many state funds do we get?
That's a good question. That's a darn good question.
You
But-
kinda concerned yourself if it's worth the effort to
You know,
go
I mean,
through all
you
this.
know, that's, you know, at this point, well, is it worth it?
Yeah, it's, you know what? I suppose
They
that's for
showed
the
me the
mayor and
stick.
Mr.
Let's
Sloan
see.
to make a decision. But if they make the decision that they wanna abide by all of this stuff, we've gotta make changes to the LDR to comply.
Well-
Because guess what they've done? They've gone ahead and harnessed a couple of different, groups. One is out of the University of Florida, and, forgot their name, I'll find it here in a second. The Schimberg Center for Housing Studies at the University of Florida, and also the Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability. Those two groups are going to essentially determine if local governments are complying. And then if you're not, then you're going to be shut out of some of these housing, some of the housing money that the state has to provide to local communities.
guess the good thing
Again,
is
how
we don't
much
have
does
a
that
whole lot.
impact
Yeah.
us?
Yeah,
No,
it's a darn good question.
That's what I wanna know,
Darn
where's the
good
money
question.
at, because if there's no
Absolutely
money
good
to be
question.
done with that, then,
Unfunded mandates by the state government
Yeah.
on a community this size that has a funding problem to start with.
Now, here's something that the clerk is gonna have to have some heartburn with. So the new law dictates that local governments will only have 10 days to review building applications for completeness. Okay, 10 days, that's pretty tough. Think about somebody going on vacation for a
But
week or two.
that's only if it satisfies the requirements
And that
of
was,
being
that wasn't a
affordable
change,
housing.
that wasn't
Yes,
a
sir.
change to the law, that was in there
Not a change to
already.
the law, but if you're gonna utilize the law.
Right.
And then the 45-day limit, and then they'd have a 45-day limit to require additional information. Otherwise, the builder could then consider their application complete and approved. And then you have a 120-day limit to either approve with conditions, or deny an application.
So do we file
So-
papers to secede from Florida, or what do we wanna do here?
You know,
It kinda
Game
sounds like
on.
No.
John, I'll tell you, it is curious why they brought this forward now, and this just went into effect, I think,
This
June,
year.
is that right, sir?
And really, the reporting requirements started October 1st. We didn't have anything to report, but as we're moving forward and as potentially, if someone comes in and satisfies the requirements of affordable housing, by definition in here, then we would have to look at how that affects the land use. So that's why I'm bringing it to y'all, and then you all can discuss how to deal with it. But at the end of the day, no, you can't secede, John. I'm afraid that's not an option.
Yeah, give me a
I
chance,
will
yeah.
tell you that every county and city attorney that I've heard from or talked to is struggling with this, because I don't know that it came out of the blue, but it certainly is unexpected in the magnitude of what it's doing. So, you know, I think I want you all to study it, and then the council's going to need to study it a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're gonna need to update the LDR.
Well,
is
let me
bottom
ask a
line.
question. If we do nothing, I mean, if we do nothing and nobody comes forward with a claim against this new law, everything's the way it was. Now, if somebody does come forward and say, well, I'm claiming you have to approve this 100 families per square foot apartment I'm building because it's under this law, well, then we'll look at it. But do we necessarily need to step out full bore, get our track shoes on, and run to embrace this?
Yeah, that's the question, and your earlier question, I think, was most appropriate. So at what point would we have to comply? There are significant tax advantages for builders and developers to go after affordable housing money. They not only get their materials for tax-free, they also get CRA. If they want to build in a
Yes, I
CRA
read
area, they
that.
get benefits of that.
But how
I'm
many
doing this
places
for
do
everybody's
we have
benefit,
that's
though.
got that much property to do? I mean, so I mean, I kind of,
Yeah.
I'm in the
Yeah.
same boat with Mr. Rogashow. Are there
Exactly.
things that may need to be tweaked?
I don't
Okay,
disagree that
fine,
to
but-
date we have not had a problem.
Yeah, but I mean,
Problem
it's
may
not
be
like
the
we're
right word.
Chicago.
We've
This
not
is
had
a-
someone come in and
I agree.
attempt to comply with the concept of affordable housing. However,
Although I'll report
because
to
of the
you on that.
incentives, I think
I just-
you could see that very soon.
And thanks for
And-
forewarning us.
And so I'm just putting it out there for you all to consider, because I think, as the chair said, there are advantages, and I believe you're gonna see it.
More than likely, you are correct. The immediate impact I see is on the city clerk because of all the unfunded reporting requirements that are now gonna fall on her shoulders.
Well, as I say, to date, she had no reporting necessary because we didn't have any.
Well, and that's the second part of the thought. I read in a lot of these cases that counties will, you know, a lot of it applied at the county level, but didn't get down to the, not everything said municipalities will. And a lot of it applied to or some of it should apply to property that's owned by the city, not privately held.
Yeah.
So
There's gonna be pressures from
we
two
gotta
sides
be careful how we
too.
read this. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a global mandate.
I know, we're anticipating, but I think there will be pressures from two sides. I think the pressure number one is gonna come from builders that want some of this inexpensive money in state funding and both in terms of materials and the benefits they get to purchase the land. And one of the things that municipalities are required to do is to identify the property that they own that would be suitable for this
You
low-income
hit the
housing.
nail on the head. The property that they own.
We
How
do
much
not.
property does the
We
city
do
own
not.
that
I
is
think,
developable?
well, I think right now it's what, about 30 or 40 lots?
I don't know that we own any property.
Well, actually, we
We do.
do.
The city
We
does,
do own
but
some
are we gonna
property
develop it?
because of, you know, for.
But are they here and
Where
there? I
are
mean, there's
these
no
pieces? That's the
consolidated
question.
buildable 3-acre tract.
There's
Yeah.
nowhere to, I can think of,
No.
put a townhouse in or something like that.
But the other pressure is gonna come from the individuals that wanna build low-income housing, because the state has created the State Apartment Incentive Loan Program, which is giving them, it guarantees them, for example, very low closing costs. And if they say, I wanna live in Parker, then they can go get a builder that will build, and it's not just multifamily homes, it could be a single-family home that falls under this program as well. So anyway, I think Mr. Sloan's right, I think we ought to just make ourselves aware of it, maybe be thinking through it through Christmas, we may have to make some changes to the LDRs. I think the biggest headache is gonna be for our staff inside, but at the end of the day, I don't know what would happen if we even had a single person who goes after this State Apartment Incentive Loan Program that wants to build in Parker, and then we say, you know.
Well, but the burden of proof is on them.
Well, let's say, for
come
example,
forward
that-
and,
let's say
it's
they
the
wanna
LDRs,
build-
but the state says you got to do this. Oh,
Yeah.
let us look at that.
Yeah.
By Jove, you're right. We're going to allow you to do that.
Yeah,
We don't
Well-
need to put our track shoes on, run out there and
Yep.
embrace them.
there you go. All right, so anyway, there's a summary. There's 55 pages summarized down to about a page and a half. Pat, did you have some comments?
Yeah.
Please do.
Can I get a copy of the summary? Cause I read this
Absolutely.
stupid thing.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely, come on.
Yeah,
I gotta
do you
show-
mind?
I don't mind
Okay,
at all.
I was gonna just have Kim some, thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Mr. Sloan.
Now, I will tell you
Excuse me,
that
I wanted to add on to that.
that's my summary based on my analysis, so
Oh.
don't take it, I mean, it's my summary.
Okay.
No,
After
but
reading
it's
these
fine, it's
55
his.
pages.
It's the
same we're all
No, no, no,
looking
no, no, I want you to have it, but
Okay.
I don't want you to ever pose it
Well, no,
as
okay.
the gospel from the state, because that's from me.
Absolutely.
This is from the
So you
state.
did the summary, not Mr. Sloan?
That's correct, I
Oh,
did the
I
summary
apologize.
for
Okay,
our
but-
planning commissioners.
Thank you, because
Yes.
I read it and it's like, oh. my
You're
God.
right, it's tough.
Information.
I just, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And I'm human, I think it's 100% accurate, but it may not be, so I'm just
No.
warning you, okay? All right, good deal, thank you.
Kathleen O'Brien, 1455 Parkway Drive.
Thank you.
When you say the words affordable housing, something stands out about what I've heard Josh Street, Panama City Commissioner, say over and over and over again. And he's talking about taxes and how the affordable housing falls into the category of those people who don't have to pay taxes. And it's a growing group of property owners, like the apartments. And they started to grow when the taxes started going up, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if this is the same group that would be in that non-tax paying.
There's several pages in the document that Mr. Sloan had sent us, which is right out of that chapter 2023-17. There's probably at least 8 or 10 pages in here which identify exactly what you just stated. Tax benefits and breaks for the builders, for the people who live in the homes, for the people buying the homes, for the people renting the homes. That's why I think there's a heavy duty incentive out there to go after areas where they can build this affordable housing. So I think we'll probably get to the point where maybe we have to comply, but,
Well, we
We'll
will
see.
comply. The
Yeah.
question is whether we have to amend the LDO.
How
I got you.
often
How
it's
much?
an
Let's not take out
option
full
for
page
us.
ads in every in all the newspapers around here and say y'all come to Panama City because we're going to go out of our way to approve this stuff.
And Mr. Robichaux, remember, we're recording this meeting.
Yeah, so that's the big big thing to think about now that we have ad valorem taxes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Kathy? All right, well, I'm done with my piece, guys.
All right.
So we're
Why
gonna turn it
don't
over to Mr.
Mr.
Sloan here.
Mr. Haney's excuse himself for a moment. I have a question. And you know the LDR because I think that you may sleep with this at night, does he, Kim? So
I wish I
what
had
is
his
what are the
ability to
rules
remember
about
things.
someone sleeping in their commercial property?
You can have a residence in a commercial property.
Does it have to be like designated as a residence, or can I just have like a furniture store and sleep on one of the sofas?
Well, that's a darn good question.
Or a
I don't think there are any
car
rules.
lot or
I
a
don't think
storage shed
I
thing?
don't believe there are any rules. As a matter of fact, within that piece that Mr. Sloan sent us, it actually identifies that if you have light industrial, commercial, that you should then allow residences to be able to be built in those districts. So
Even if you prohibit them. in
yeah,
those
even if you
districts,
prohibit them, yeah,
if they're affordable housing.
yeah.
Oy vey.
Yeah, so, but I don't think that there are rules against, as a matter of fact, I think you can have a residence in a commercial area, like, there are lots of,
No, I don't mean a residence in a commercial area.
yeah,
If I have a business where I
Right.
have a lovely business that you
Yeah.
walk in and you can purchase a,
yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
something here, and then I say, oh, well, I'm just gonna put 2 hammocks up in the office and we're gonna sleep there. Is that illegal? Is that allowed?
That's the way they all used to be.
Yeah.
They live up top and
Yeah.
have their shop on the bottom.
Yeah.
I'm not- Yeah, but that's different. That's almost like having an apartment attached.
Yeah,
I'm talking about, well.
I can
just-
tell you, in my estimation, there's nothing
I
in
know
the LDRs that
stories.
would prevent that from happening. We do know what we are trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent, for example, accessory dwellings. There are no accessory dwellings allowed, anywhere essentially, in Parker. Tiny homes, we've prohibited. Homes that are built out of Connex boxes, we've prohibited.
Now's the time for me to go get my comics books.
John, are you sleeping in your shop again?
All right, guys.
Only
I know
when I
it's
don't
late,
sleep in my
so
truck.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Sloan to go ahead and lead this next piece.
Well, what I did was, this is the draft that Mr. Robichaud had worked on, and then I put it in form. It's not, this is just a preliminary draft. The final version will have the maps attached, and we'll have a public hearing at the next Planning Commission meeting. So this is just kind of letting you know that it's coming, but the official action, the public hearing, will be at your next Planning Commission meeting in December. And what this is Mr. Robichaud's derivation of the light manufacturing, how it will fit in to the current LDR, and so that's what this is, and you should look at it, make sure you all are okay with it. If you've got any proposed changes to it, let me know before the next Planning Commission meeting, certainly before the next City Commission meeting, because they're gonna have a public hearing on it, actually probably before you will, at their first meeting in December. So if anybody sees anything that's glaring that needs to be changed, let me know. Mr. Robichaud has reviewed it.
Can I launch one question, and I
Yes,
may
sir.
or may not be wrong. Page 15.
Page 15.
Yes, sir. Item number 5. It says processes or operations that exceed noise limits defined in section 26-101 of the city code for mixed use general commercial. These are supposed to be things that are a lot. I'm just wondering, should that say processes or operations that do not exceed noise limits?
Well, if you read the preliminary, it says a subset of manufacturing for any business which does not constitute a nuisance under 26-101 of the code and meets all of the following limitations. So,
Yeah, so if it meets all of the following limitations, and then, and again, I'm probably just thinking through it wrong, but it's so if it meets the qualifications, processes or operations that exceed noise limits?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm saying, do we want to say processes
that
or operations
do
that
not
do
exceed.
not exceed noise limits? I'm just,
Yeah.
and again,
Right.
I was thinking maybe there was something upstream of that.
Yeah. That's a valid point.
But does the may not at A and B meet that requirement?
That was my point, and, let's see here, subset of manufacturing for any business which does not
So
constitute
everything
a
below
nuisance.
it has to comply with everything below.
Right,
And so that should actually say
do not.
do not exceed.
Okay, very good. So if Mr. Sloan, if you, that's the
fix
one,
that.
I read through it, and that's the one thing I just happened to see, but I'll read through it again.
And I'm gonna change the word may now that I look at it to does not.
So that's on page.
In A and B.
Okay, I see. May not exceed, okay, very good.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
All right, but this is just informational at this point,
Yes,
so.
sir,
I
very good, and
will,
it looks good.
I will get the final
Looks good.
version to the.
And it really does meet the requirement of, I don't think we really wanted to prevent dressmakers and people who wanted to make articles of clothing or birdhouses, or a number of other things from being able to do business in Parker. So, very good. Well, let me just go around the room. Terry, anything you wanna talk to the group about?
No, the signs were gonna be my thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's something we want a buku of here in Parker.
Well-
Especially the digital sign.
Yeah, I remember when we were going through that, I remember it used to be a much shorter distance between signs.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I remember, it might have been Mr. Sloan who said that a means of limiting
Yeah.
those billboards would be to put a minimum distance between them. And that made sense because we only have, what, 3
Right.
miles or 2
Right.
miles? So if you
Right.
say
That
you can
wouldn't
only
be too
have
bad.
one way over a half mile or
Right.
something, by nature, you're gonna limit those type of signs. But this clearly violates that.
And is that big one gonna be a digital sign
Well,
It's,
It's
that's,
LED both sides.
right next to the motel?
well, now,
So it's
now
gonna be.
there are code that, in here,
Yeah.
in the signage for billboards that say they can't be flashing because of the distraction nature of that. You can have lighted signs, but you can't have stuff that's gonna distract. So
There's a whole
those,
set of
those,
DOT regulations on it.
Right.
It
Yeah.
has to
I
be
think it's
compliant.
gonna
It
be
has to
like the
comply with
one up
DOT.
above the Foxfire or whatever that thing,
I
Cadillac
do too.
Jacks.
I do
It's a
too.
digital.
a digital, okay.
Yeah. But
Those
you
are a
know,
lot.
those people get paid that own that property, they get paid a rent monthly
Right.
or annually
For
for
that sign.
being allowed to put that on that property.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we've got one on this property and one right here,
Yeah.
somebody went around knocking on doors and talking to people.
Yeah.
And now we've got things that weren't caught that have overlapped.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the rule's clear. I mean, so from a planning commission standpoint and from a council standpoint, we did our job. The rules exist. But
Right.
from a compliance issue, we got 2 signs that are certainly within that distance of each other.
I mean, we need to
So-
put the kibosh on the both until we figure out, because one of them's already
I
up.
need to talk with the city clerk and get some background.
Okay, very
It's,
good.
like I said, told somebody.
I'm,
it's
Mr.
just-
Sloan, I'm still trying to get it, so when we speak next, hopefully I'll have that more background on it.
Stuff like this that catches is kind of like why they have the labels on the baby clothes, remove baby before washing. You know, you just don't think things are gonna happen and they do.
Yeah.
Have anything you want to bring before the
Oh, I got lots, but I'm
Commissioners?
gonna leave it until the next meeting,
Okay.
city clerk?
cause I have a pen on that.
Anything you want to bring before us?
I do, with regard to this, because this sign permit was not one that was,
Didn't
it's
come
not
before the-
required to come before you, but I just wonder if maybe that's something that the committee would like to think about changing.
Well,
And Mr. Sloan, I don't know if that's where is that a council conversation?
well, everything should go through planning, right?
Ultimately, it'd have
I'm
to
not-
be an ordinance change.
Well, but,
Right.
I mean, just a sign for like the crematorium,
Well, this is an
whatever it is
off-premises
down there.
advertising
No,
sign. It's a different category of sign.
this is, yeah,
This
this
is not a
is a
sign in your
monster,
building
no,
saying Joe Shisha.
yeah,
This is an off-premises advertising sign.
yeah. And I think that
Yeah.
being, not, how do we say, because those are not a sign for your business or
No.
your business.
Yeah, that's an
This is a
off-premise,
sign that is for a larger company, and then they farm out that sign for anybody that wants to pay money to be on it. So to me, that definitely should come in front, because technically that's a business that's operating within,
Yeah.
you know, and they're going to go to other people and say, give me money and I'll put your stuff up there. Now you're doing business in our city.
Yeah. Well, it could have been a mistake, a human mistake, and now we're made aware of it. The good news is there's only 2 of them, or at least one, and maybe we can prevent the other one from happening. And at the end of the day, we'll have to do the right thing for the sign company and for us.
And I would ask that you immediately, Madam Clerk, contact EPCI and tell them to hold on the second application.
I was just making that note. Now, when I spoke with them today, I voiced my concern. Tomorrow, I will say you need to stop it.
Yeah, well, and tell them to put a little horsepower behind it. Tell them you spoke to the city, our city attorney, and that's our recommendation.
No, I think I'll just be I'll be contacting Mr. Creel himself.
There you go.
Mr. Sloan, anything you want to share with us?
No, sir. When just one thing so you'll know, ordinances now by, again, another statute, the legislature is imposing on the cities and counties to have to do a business impact statement for every ordinance that comes now after October 1st. So,
That's where we got that from you.
so every ordinance I have to now do a business impact statement.
And do we advertise the entire statement? Did we?
No,
we don't-
the statement has to be posted on the website.
Mhm.
I highlighted that section for you
Oh,
that I
okay.
emailed you today.
Yes, and I have not been back to my office for job interviews, so, okay,
But,
thank you, sir.
It just has to be advertised on the website.
Okay.
Jim, anything for the
Yeah,
rest of the crew?
and this is for the staff. If you guys recall, we were, when I think it was the Carvel folks came up before us, they attempted to impose some sort of classification on their drawings. Could not be sent out to the individual members because, my gosh, they're copyrighted. Well, here's a Florida Attorney General opinion says no,
There are later opinions, Mr.
That-
Robichaud.
and it says that they can withhold them.
That talk about trade secrets, yes, sir.
But I would
I'll
think
send
the
it to you.
basics
Okay.
of
Then never mind. Though in that case,
That's good.
well, oh no, this is a problem. I mean,
No, but they have to identify to us specifically what are the trade secrets.
Yeah.
And that's where the first, there was confusion because they just came in and said, well, everything is a trade secret.
Yeah.
But that's not, that cannot be. And so,
So how are we, as responsible members of this commission, supposed to evaluate an application for a business to locate here and be permitted?
No,
if we can't analyze, if we
Yeah.
do not have access
Right.
to the
I-
fundamental.
Do we have to get, that's a really good question. Do we have to then get, if we have another one, this is the first one I had to deal with.
No, we've
You're
had
talking
two.
about Cole.
There was somebody before that attempted to do the same thing.
So-
I had to come in here and look at their drawings.
Do we have to then get permission, written permission from them to share it with the other planning commissioners before we could analyze whether or not the development
I
could
think
move
the
forward?
first step is they've got to clearly identify what they claim to be a trade secret. And that has to comply with, there's a statutory definition of what a trade secret is.
But to clarify, mere copywriting does not
Does not
invoke
make it a
I
trade
can't
secret.
imagine what trade secrets would be on a drawing of
That
it.
is
Out of a
correct.
drawing of
Well,
it.
Copyright means if you have a copyrighted document, for instance, it means you have the rights to that document, and if someone copies it for nefarious purposes, then you might have a claim against them.
Right, right.
Obviously, that's not what we're talking about.
In my reading, it was the term trade secrets was used, but it was things that were specifically set out in Florida statutes that fall under the you can't distribute it, that some manner of.
That was a learning experience, Mr. Robichaud.
So what do we do the next time somebody comes up and?
I have to
we-
contact them and ask Mr. Sloan to
Right.
explain this to
We
me.
talk to me and find out exactly, get them to identify exactly what they claim is a trade secret and why.
Okay.
And their process will not move forward until they provide that.
That's what I
Because they're
wanted to
going
hear.
to
Yeah, that
stipulate
needs
that
to be
we
a part of
can't
their
distribute.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear.
If they're
And
gonna-
by
if
the
they're
way,
gonna-
if I distribute something that is a trademark secret, it's a felony for me. So it will stop until they identify.
Yeah.
And if we don't have enough information, we don't have enough
I'm,
information.
Well,
I'm not gonna
we
risk
have- yeah.
the felony.
Yeah, well, no.
I can't imagine like their general building plans would be trade secret.
Exactly.
So I did reach out to Culver's and they did recommend that it was copyrighted and trademarked. Those architectural
Again,
drawings were.
copyrighted and trademarked.
I understand.
Is different.
But I couldn't ask them after the fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I had nothing to say, we're not going forward until you provide this, right? But I did reach out to the architect, and they did tell me, yes, ma'am, you were correct.
I think we've got a path forward, though, so if it
Mm-hmm.
happens again, we'll contact our clerk and our city attorney, and then if we can't share the information with us, then the project can't move forward, because how else can you evaluate it? It seems pretty simple to me.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my whole point. You know,
Yeah.
how-
And
how
if
we
they
supposed
have
to
an
do our job?
issue, then, and they
Yeah.
need attorneys to communicate with attorneys, they can take
Very
that
good.
next step.
John, anything that you want to share with the rest of the group?
I just like the idea that trying to keep Tyndall Parkway just a nice entrance to Parker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No Sanford and Son, no
Exactly.
signs, nothing like that. I mean, just a nice entrance
Well,
to Parker.
It should be that way, because that whole area is Community Redevelopment Act Sub-Area 2. It's
Correct.
designed to be the crown jewel
Right.
of Park, that and out here, and, yeah, I get it. And on a tongue in cheek, I would never pick a fight with you. You look like you could kick somebody's butt.
I'm harmless.
I don't think Mr. Bostwick can realize that you were on the previous
That
council.
was priceless, your history and.
Yeah.
When
It
you do
was
get to
like-
read
Well,
Mr.
you,
Libby's
you
letter.
gotta understand, this man, he's threatened our previous code enforcement officer.
I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Mr. Talley, you know how
He's pretty
easygoing he
aggressive.
is.
Yeah.
He had an issue with him. He had issue with me outside, where I just about dislocated his jaw for him. But he's just a spiteful person. I don't know what his agenda is, but I mean, he's already been turned down once. I don't know what his deal is.
That, it was good, it was helpful to have that history, not the parking lot history, the other history of the
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is, right?
He's not a nice guy. I'm not either. Two people meet and sometimes something happens.
I thought I was gonna have to come over and sit with you.
Call police or EMTs, which one you wanna go, we're gonna roll or something.
Pat, did you have something?
I do, and I apologize, and thank you for your indulgence.
Sure.
Just on this billboard issue, here's my concern. This 5661 permit was issued in September, and that's, sorry,
The 5657.
I'm gonna get to
Right.
the bottom.
5657 was
of
issued
where we are.
in March.
Mm-hmm.
No, September. The 5657.
One
anyway,
was in September and one was in
one
March.
was later,
Mhm.
but there's already construction done, so
For both of them?
No,
I mean, I could
but-
see one of them.
for the one that's submitted
latter one.
in March. The other one has not yet, but I think time is of the essence, because I'm concerned about liability to the city, because we issued both permits. We said
Tonight's
to,
the first time I've heard of it, so
yeah,
give me
I
a
know,
little time
and I
to
know Ms. Riga's been
get an
very
idea
busy,
of what's
but
going on
I've-
with it.
I've been to
Well, we didn't
EPCI
issue a
as she's
permit.
talked with them, and it's a
EPCI
mess, but
I-
thank you.
Well,
I
no,
think
I-
we're gonna look
What
into it,
she's
and
suggesting is we
we're gonna have to
approve it.
evaluate it, because
I
you know,
only saw one.
the rule's already there. Like I say, the planning commission and the council members did their darn job, and who knows, forever, you know.
So is
It
it
may have just
okay
been
if
an
we
oversight.
put a cot in City Hall? Cause I may be sleeping here.
Just saying, I mean.
Make sure it's a
Good
comfortable
thing it's
cot.
not commercials.
We still have the,
check
Hurricane
in
Michael
with you and
FEMA
see if
costs.
that's-
I was just asking for a friend.
Oh, thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for everybody's help. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr.